Soft morning rays were streaming through the massive windows of the New York skyscraper where Barron Trump lived with his parents. The young man stretched, glanced at the news feed on his tablet, and suddenly remembered that his mother Melania's birthday was approaching. An idea immediately began to form in his head. I want to do something special for her, choose a place where she can relax and enjoy her favorite cuisine. Barron knew his mother loved French cuisine. She told him how, before she became president, they would dine together at a small Parisian bistro, and how she loved the light sauces and elegant presentation. He wanted to repeat that feeling, but in the heart of New York. The idea came to him instantly. We need to find a decent French restaurant. As if spurred on by inspiration, he opened his laptop and immersed himself in reading reviews of various establishments. Site after site, tab after tab, Barron carefully studied the comments, looking closely at the location and menu. A couple of hours later, his gaze stopped on one of the restaurants in the very center of the city, not far from the historic theater. He had many enthusiastic responses. Gorgeous cuisine, authentic atmosphere, polite staff. A great option for a celebration. Well, I'll give it a try, Barron muttered, clicking the mouse a few times. The restaurant was called Le Papillon d'Or. The website promised a truly French atmosphere and authentic service. He immediately imagined Melania walking in an elegant dress, him giving her a bouquet of flowers, and them celebrating her birthday at a fancy table. That same evening he decided to discuss with his mother her plans for the coming days. Finding Melania in the living room, he asked, smiling, Mom, how would you like to meet up at a cool French restaurant on your birthday evening? Melania looked up from her phone and looked questioningly at her son. Have you already found something? Yes. It looks like it will be a great place, he confirmed enthusiastically. I was interested in the French style, because I know how much you love this cuisine. Mom smiled, and a spark of joy lit up her eyes. Thank you, Barron. I've really been wanting to spend a quiet evening for a long time. They agreed that Melania would drive there herself at the appointed time. Barron announced that he wanted to come early to check everything and give her a surprise. In his soul, he felt a slight excitement, because he wanted everything to go perfectly. The day had arrived. The morning was sunny, a rarity for the chilly New York March. Barron left the house early in the afternoon to pick up some flowers. He booked a taxi through an app and headed to a small but well-known flower shop that always had fresh roses. This time, he decided to buy a lush bouquet of soft pinks with a little bit of white, a combination that he thought would perfectly suit Melania's refined taste. How can I help you, young man? Asked the smiling florist, emerging from behind the shelves. I need a special bouquet for my mother, Barron explained, looking at the colorful arrangements. It's her birthday today, and I want to make her really happy. The florist, appreciating his serious attitude, suggested several options. In the end, they created a composition decorated with ribbons and small eucalyptus branches. Barron was pleased. The bouquet looked elegant and not too bulky. Then, returning home for a short time, he took a shower and chose a dark blue suit for the evening, which suited his trim figure perfectly. He added a white shirt without unnecessary patterns, a classic that symbolized respect for the event. Leaning towards a mirror, he mentally repeated, Mom will be pleased. As the evening approached, he called a taxi again. The busy streets of Manhattan, the bright shop windows and the streams of tourists passed ahead. At the traffic lights, where cars stopped in long lines, Barron glanced nervously at his watch. I need to get there a little earlier than her to check everything. Finally, the car stopped at an old building with an elegant sign, Le Papillon d'Or. The lamps above the entrance glowed softly, and lace curtains on the doors hinted at the coziness inside. As Barron took out money to pay for the taxi, he suddenly felt a slight uneasiness, something like a premonition. The thought flashed, I wonder if everything is okay here? But he immediately dismissed this feeling, assuming that it was just the excitement of a surprise. He got out of the car, holding a bouquet in his hand. Running his gaze along the facade, he noticed that there was an uneasy atmosphere outside the large windows of the restaurant. People inside seemed to be talking tensely. Someone was moving quickly. Strange, he thought, and without hesitation, decisively pushed the door. At the entrance he was met by a hostess who, noticing his suit and flowers, tried to smile politely. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Le Papillon d'Or. Do you have a table reserved? Yes, Barron replied, a little absent-mindedly. It's my mother's birthday this evening. He stopped short when he saw a familiar figure ahead. Melania, dressed in an elegant beige dress, stood a little further away, clutching a clutch. But her face expressed a mixture of fear and indignation, and opposite him, a man in an expensive suit was shouting something in an excited tone. The scene looked unpleasant, visitors were watching furtively, someone was whispering about what was happening. Barron's stomach clenched. What the hell? Flashed through his mind. He quickly approached and caught the edges of the conversation. I don't want to see the president's wife here. This is our establishment. We decide who is worthy of dining here. Melania's eyes showed shock. She seemed unprepared for such aggression. Her face remained proud, but a tremor still broke through in her voice. Monsieur, you are the administrator, shouldn't you know that any client can come with a prior reservation? The man, apparently the administrator, clenched his fists and hissed. I will not tolerate a person who supports the current government. My views are liberal, and you have no place here. I have the right to refuse service. At this moment, Barron intervened. Excuse me, he said, looking the manager firmly in the eye. But what makes you think you have the right to yell at my mother? We honestly booked a table, and she's here at my invitation. Your behavior is unacceptable. The administrator turned his angry gaze to Barron, frowning sullenly. And who are you? The president's son, right? Moreover, I don't want to see you. I already said we have the right. As the manager, you are responsible for the atmosphere of the establishment, Barron said, barely containing his anger. Your personal political views do not give you the right to humiliate guests and spoil people's holiday. A surprised whisper rolled through the room. Some realized that an open conflict had begun, some tried to get into the phone and take a photo or video. The staff did not know how to react, because the administrator is a person who formally has a lot of authority. The administrator raised his chin. Get out before I call security. Barron took a deep breath, trying not to let his emotions get the better of him. He placed the bouquet on the nearest table so as not to crush the flowers and said in a voice loud enough for those around him to hear. No need to throw us out. We will leave this place ourselves since they do not know how to treat customers here. But keep in mind, your restaurant will lose much more than just a payment for dinner. We will do everything to make sure that you have to answer for rudeness and disrespect to guests. He turned to Melania, who was trying to maintain her dignity. There was a sad look of disappointment on her face, but she nodded, agreeing that there was no point in staying. Let me walk you home, Mom, Barron said, taking her arm. But before he left, he took another look at the administrator. Congratulations, you've ruined our evening. But we'll find another establishment where we'll be greeted with respect. A tense silence reigned in the hall. Some looked at Melania and Barron with sympathy, some were perplexed. The administrator, softening, muttered something, but they were already walking towards the exit. Barron felt his heart pounding. Not every day have to deal with such blatant aggression towards his mother. How dare he? The young man thought, feeling a surge of righteous indignation. Outside, the New York evening was sparkling with lights, bright shop windows, shimmering billboards, streams of cars and passers-by hurrying about their business. Melania, slightly trembling, tried to digest what had happened. Barron stood nearby, trying to hug his mother to cheer her up. Mom, I'm so sorry things turned out this way, he said quietly. I didn't expect anything like this. She looked at her son, her eyes still reflecting resentment and confusion, but gradually firmness began to return to them. It's okay, son. I'm proud that you stood up for me. Although, I admit, I didn't expect politics to reach such a level of rudeness. I wanted to give you this bouquet, Barron added sheepishly, carefully handing her the roses. Happy birthday, Mom. Sorry the place was so disgusting. Melania smiled as she accepted the flowers. She quietly inhaled their scent. Thank you, dear. This is the most beautiful bouquet. Don't worry, the evening is not over yet. We can find another place. Barron nodded, realizing they needed to come up with a plan B. The idea came to mind of calling a restaurateur he knew who ran a cozy Italian place nearby. But before he could dial the number, a young waiter from Le Papillon d'Or approached them. He looked a little older than Barron, a thin guy with kind eyes. He looked confused and said quietly, "Sorry for interrupting, but I wanted to apologize for the behavior of our manager. He's too political, I would say. Many guests have complained before, but the owner keeps him for some reason. Believe me, many of us do not support such a reception, especially with respected clients." Barron and Melania exchanged glances. The waiter continued, "If we could somehow—" He looked at Melania's bouquets. "I sincerely ask you to forgive me and our staff. We ourselves feel awkward." "Thank you for coming," Barron replied. "But I don't think we'll be staying here any longer. It's too unpleasant a feeling." "I understand." The waiter nodded sadly. "I hope you'll have a wonderful evening somewhere else." The guy disappeared behind the door, and Barron dialed a friend on his phone. To his relief, he was there and assured him that his restaurant was always happy to accommodate such guests. "Come right now, I'll give you a wonderful table," he said. Barron thanked him and turned to his mother. "Everything is decided. We have a plan B. Shall we go?" Melania smiled. "Of course. The very thought that the evening can still be saved inspires me." Their taxi was already waiting on the side of the road, before it had even left. Barron opened the door for his mother, helped her in, then climbed in himself. The car quietly pulled away, carrying them away from the ill-fated Le Papillon d'Or. The evening was still just picking up steam when the car pulled up at another restaurant, less pompous but warm and friendly. Streetlights lit up the sidewalks and live music blared from inside. The owner, Mr. Salvatore, stood at the entrance, greeting guests with a broad smile. "Barron, it's good to see you. And your mother, Mrs. Trump? Welcome, you're welcome. Don't worry, we're calmer than anywhere else." Melania, still slightly shaken by the previous incident, smiled at Salvatore and replied, "Thank you for having us. Today is a special day." They walked to a table in a cozy corner, next to a small fountain that merrily gurgled in the interior. The atmosphere was immediately felt: subdued lighting, the smell of Italian herbs, warmth and joy from the surroundings. The staff treated the guests with respect, without asking unnecessary questions. After ordering dishes that Melania loved, a light salad, pasta with white sauce, and, to top it off, tiramisu, they finally relaxed. Barron handed his mother the bouquet she had been holding tightly the entire way and said quietly, "Mom, happy birthday again. Sorry for ruining the start of the evening. But I hope everything will work out better here." Melania placed her palm on her son's hand. "Darling, you have already done the most important thing for me. You have shown that you are ready to support me in any situation. This is much more valuable than dinner at the most expensive place." The waiter brought glasses of mineral water and a small basket of crusty bread. Melania took a sip, caught her breath, and felt the shadows of the recent conflict gradually recede. She looked at Barron, almost an adult, but still a son who cared about her mood. "Tell me, how did you come up with the idea of choosing that restaurant?" she asked, trying to give her voice a playful lightness to finally shake off the negativity. "Well, I read the reviews," Barron admitted, a little embarrassed. "Everything was written positively there. Apparently, no one mentioned the administrator's political leanings. Maybe these days we should include a clause about tolerance for different views in reviews." Melania joked sadly. For dessert, Salvatore presented them with his signature surprise, a tiny cake with the words, "Happy birthday, Melania!" emblazoned with fresh berries. It was accompanied by sparkling sparklers, and the whole atmosphere was filled with festivity. Melania, forgetting about recent grievances, blew out the symbolic candles with a smile. At that moment, when the music stopped, Barron stood up, raised a glass of mineral water — he didn't drink anything alcoholic — and made a short toast. Mom, I wish you to always remain as strong and beautiful as you are. Thank you for being there for me. I hope that this evening, despite the misunderstandings, will be remembered from the best side." Melania nodded, touched, and deep down she felt a special pride for her son, who had approached the conflict situation so maturely and managed not to break under pressure. "He's not a little boy anymore," flashed through her mind. They soon left the restaurant, thanking Mr. Salvatore and the staff. Outside, the New York evening continued to live its noisy life, but Barron and Melania felt at peace. The unpleasant episode at Le Papillon d'Or was just a backdrop, confirming that goodwill and mutual support are more important than any political differences and other people's moods. "I think we can do without any complaints against that admin," Melania said quietly, realizing that Barron could file a complaint. "Let it be his problem." "Maybe that's better," the son agreed. "But still, the reputation of such a place may already be damaged. How can you do business by turning people away for political reasons?" She shrugged, thoughtful, and they walked to the car, which was waiting at the curb. The night wind gently ruffled their clothes, and the streets were shining with advertisements and lanterns. The birthday had been saved, even if not where it had been planned. More importantly, Barron had shown himself to be an independent and determined man, ready to stand up for his mother. And for Melania, this was the most precious gift.